know you must get this asked this a lot. I know you've got a course on this, but how important are frameworks in strategy, and should we be learning them all, and which ones?
It's a very nice question because yesterday I had a session 1 hour long where I explained the basics about these frameworks. I started with the age-old planning cycle by Stephen King by explaining the all 5 steps, as I explained a little bit earlier in this conversation that he included in his planning cycle. And then I went into the TBWA disruption model, which when I put these two things to like next to each other, they are very, very similar. Like basically the only difference between them is the convention. In one model you need to find the conventions what are in the category. In the disruption model on the other side, it's just the situation analysis, like where we are and why we are there. The rest is the same, that you need to visioneering and that you need to come up with a strategy. And in the disruption model you don't focus on measurement, that is in the planning cycle. And then there are this whole bunch of varieties of C's, 2C, 3C, 4C, 5C, 6C models. And I think this, if we are talking about the basic and the most well-known, the 4C model, I think that's the best model or best blueprint that you need to have in your mind when you think about what kind of information I need to gather usually about my project. But then there's always, as you said, the situations where you can't use the 4C model because you have like a very specific task. And then, as yesterday I told to my attendees to my lecture, I said you can play around, you can use a 3C model, or you can even narrow down to the 2C model, which is like the basics of the business. Like you need to have a product and you need to have an audience, and then how you will bring them together. And then comes the third C, which is usually a context, which can mean a category, which can mean a culture, or competition, which is category and competition sometimes are mixed. I said like sometimes when you gather even the information based on the 4C model, you can't build a nice story, and you need to still have like a new model or need to have some kind of storytelling narratives or some kind of ways how to tell the story again in your mind to kind of bring those findings into the story. Question when you ask like what are my kind of go-to kind of frameworks, it depends, because if we are talking about the brand strategy, there are certain amount of frameworks that needs to be used to kind of come up with the brand positioning. Like there's a framework for target audience segmentation, there's a framework for target personas definition, there's a framework for brand pyramid. If we are going into the topic about the advertising strategy or creative strategy, then there will be other frameworks as a 4C model or planning cycle that you can still use to kind of tell your story, or you can use a disruption model by TBWA.